Are we ready to start, everyone?
When the rhythm starts to play.
Marimba rhythm.
That's what it says.
Rhythm. When marimba rhythm starts to play, dance with me, make me sway, like a lazy ocean hugs the shore. Hold me close, sway me more, like a flower floating in the breeze. Dance with me, sway with ease. When we through, you'll have your way with me. Dance with me, sway with me.
Wow.
Start this thing.
Okay, cool.
This is the Always More podcast.
Hello, everyone. It is August 10th, and welcome to the Always More podcast, where we believe there is always more room at the table for honest questions, meaningful conversations, and deeper understanding. Today on the pod, we're talking about flying saucers, burials, bailing pools, an interview with Colleen Saffron, and so much more. But first, I'm your host, Harley Bead, and next to me are my besties for the resties, Timoteo and Christoph,
Hello, hello.
Yo, what
a.k.a. Timothy Lichty and Christopher Ford.
You know, I had a nickname that stuck around for like 2 weeks in middle school. It was Hemi the Timmy.
What?
Yeah.
Why am I just now finding out about this?
I don't
That's
remember
what
that.
It didn't stick around very long.
I don't remember that at all.
You said for how long you had it?
It was like 2 weeks. It might have been elementary school, actually, now that I think
Hemi
about
the
it.
Timmy.
Yeah, it was right when the Hemi truck thing came out. It was like, you remember that commercial? Like, that thing got a Hemi? And it just kind of rhymed with Timmy.
Yeah. I remember
You remember the
that.
commercials?
Yeah.
Did you ever actually go by Timmy? Like, was that a thing for
He's
you?
Timmy in my phone.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Wow. You didn't know?
I didn't know actually that.
Yeah.
I think everyone on him and like his side of the family, like not his family, but like the Saffrons, like call me Timmy. It's just a thing.
Yeah, we all have you listed as Timmy in our phones.
I never go by it, and they never call me that. It's just in their phones.
It's just what it is in the phone, yeah.
That's just Timmy.
That's just how it is.
It's just
Timmy.
how it is.
All right.
What is that?
So, first thing on the pod that we're going to get into today is Wreck and Rev. Tim, what you got?
Nope.
What?
I'm a little mad that you've seen it and I haven't. Truthfully.
No, but like actually I kind of want to go see it.
It's good. It's good.
I really want to see
It is not my favorite Jordan Peele movie, but it is good.
What is your favorite Jordan Peele movie?
It would probably be Us. No. Man, it's hard.
There is the wrong answer.
I mean, Get Out is so foundational. I saw Us first, actually, if I remember correctly. I'll say Get Out. I'll take
Yeah.
mine.
All right. Good answer. Good answer. As
so
long as it's not Candyman.
Oh, I've not seen. That's him.
Yeah.
I did not know that. No, I did not see that one.
Yeah. And no, I will not be seeing that one either.
Okay. Here's the synopsis. After random objects falling from the sky result in the death of their father, ranch-owning siblings OJ and Emerald Haywood attempt to capture video evidence of an unidentified flying object with the help of tech salesman Angel Torres and documentarian Antlers Holst. So this movie is very different. Most of it's during the day. You kind of even know what's coming, like even based on the trailers. Like, have you seen the trailers?
Yeah.
Like
Aliens.
It's a UFO. Basically, is what it is. But it I don't want to spoil anything.
What's the twist, Tim?
Right. But it's just different in how it presents the big climax and what to expect out of it. And the story really is a foundational story about the brother and the sister in this movie. So it's just different, and it's not as bad. I actually really enjoyed it, but man, it is a wild ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
That's funny because of horses.
Yeah.
Wild ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool.
That's it. It's a really great movie. Go check it out. I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't want to give too much away. But yeah, it's definitely worth a ticket.
Huh.
I might go see it while I'm on vacation if they play it in English.
You should.
That'll be essential, I think.
All right, so my Wreck and Rev for the week is a movie on Netflix called Spiderhead, starring Chris Hemsworth and Miles Teller, which we also call Speedometer.
Yes. Wait, what?
What?
His name, Miles Teller.
Oh,
Speedometer.
you're funny.
It's a Miles Teller. It tells you how many miles. It's a speedometer. No, not funny.
No.
All right, fair enough.
Because I'm in love with him, it's not funny.
All right. I'm telling your boyfriend. So this movie is in the near future. Convicts are offered the chance to volunteer as medical subjects to shorten their sentence. One such subject, played by Miles Teller, for a new drug capable of generating feelings of love, begins questioning the reality of his emotions.
Whoa.
So it's a pretty interesting thing. They basically have what I would call like an insulin pump, being a diabetic, that is just attached to their back, and it's giving them the option for the medical study people to add or take out a particular drug from their body at any given point.
Okay.
Being prisoners and signing up for this voluntarily, they have to say, I acknowledge that this is happening. So they're always like, oh, can we give you a little bit of N40? And the guy's like, yeah, I acknowledge. And then they give him N40, and then they do the study, and they like write down what his reaction is and all of that stuff. It's a really cool kind of sci-fi movie type thing.
Yeah.
Little bit of crime and suspense as well. It's just a really interesting new take on something I don't think I've seen in a while. So pretty cool. It's got a really interesting, I wouldn't call it a twist, because like at a certain point you kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
But it still does a really good job of playing that out, kind of showing like the doctor and the patient's interactions together versus like the doctor and the patients fighting each other. Kind of like one of those cool things. Definitely a commentary on our current situation with how how corporations treat people.
Yeah.
How
did Chris Hemsworth do?
Oh, Chris Hemsworth did an amazing job with his role. You can kind of see Thor a little bit, truthfully.
Okay, I was curious.
Just the personality just leaks out, and that's just because it's Chris Hemsworth being Thor. It's not like he's channeling Thor into this character. It's just Chris Hemsworth. I think that's his personality.
Is he a prisoner or a doctor?
He is the doctor. Miles Teller is the main prisoner. There are a few other prisoners, and then Chris Hemsworth plays the doctor.
Oh, okay.
So it's a pretty cool thing. One of the things that I really liked about it was at one point all of the music is in major tones, and there's like one minor note in the song. And then towards the end of the movie, it's like the other way around. All of the music changes to like minor tones, and then there's like one major tone. And then in the end, it's like half and half. Like the ending song is like half major, half minor. It's pretty cool. One of those things I noticed.
Who's the composer?
Truthfully, I don't know. I didn't look that up. I should.
I'll figure it out. You keep talking.
And then I would like to say, as a trigger warning, there can be one or two scenes that are pretty rough specifically for parents to watch. But outside of that, I mean, it's a really good movie. It just caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it, so trigger warning. It's not like a long scene, and it's not like very visual, but it can get you. So that's my Wreck and Rev for the week.
Joseph Trapanese.
He's good at what he does, whoever he is.
Oh, he did He did The Greatest Showman.
That makes sense. This is a greatest show.
Harley.
Okay, sorry. Mine is also a movie. So mine's called 42.
Whoop, whoop.
And
Ooh,
yes.
you're going
So
back.
good.
Okay.
So good.
so
good. Can we talk about our king right now?
No, absolutely. We can.
Let's talk about it.
But basically, it's a biographical film about the baseball player Jackie Robinson. It's played by Chadwick Boseman. It was so
King
freaking
Panther forever.
literally
Yes.
so good, so good. The movie's from 2013 is when it was like it came out, released, whatever you want to say, and it's stupid inspirational. Like, oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah.
All of the emotions.
I thought I was going to join the MLB after I watched it.
As if right.
I believe I could do it, Chadwick.
I'll do it for you. But really, it just kind of goes into like the diversity that Jackie Robinson would have faced, and it wasn't something that like, obviously, like at the time, like he's the first African American MLB like baseball player, like big deal, super big deal. But it went into like he was staying in like this town, and a bunch of like this old white man showed up and was like, "Is this the house he's staying in? Well, you need to tell him to get on because we're gonna bring more of us." And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, it just puts it in perspective how like real it was, I guess. But
it still is in some places.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And just how he was able to like overcome it. And I didn't know a lot about Jackie Robinson's like personality or anything, like who he was like as a person aside from baseball. And so it kind of showed that side of him being like he was like a fighter. Like he resisted like the oppression and all of that stuff, and at least to the best of his ability when he was joining the MLB because obviously he wants to make it big. So
Right. And this was like the 1940s. So
Yeah.
that was like.
yeah, so he
Unheard
could
of.
end up dead potentially, like on a serious note. And it was just the fact that although he did have to withstand a lot of like the BS, if you will, he was still like, hey, y'all need to like learn that this shit's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just a super good movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so
Bring it back.
12 out of 10.
Such a good movie.
It's good stuff.
All right, and now we're going to move into...
Shower thoughts with Chris.
That was good. It was very peaceful.
I try.
All right,
Chris.
what's your name? I'm just kidding. Chris, what you got for us?
All right. So, like, one of the things that I think about constantly, it's not even specifically a shower thought. Like, I am, once a day, I think about
It's
this.
like driving down the road. And he's like, oh, it's back again.
Yeah, like, it's there. Like, I look over to my passenger seat and it's like, hey. Who was the first person to bury someone? And, like, why did it catch on? It's like, like as animals, when something dies, they kind of like just leave it where it drops. Like elephants kind of have their graveyard, but essentially it's like they know they're dying, so they just go to the place where all the other elephants are.
Right.
Who was the first person to be like, you know what? I'm going to dig a hole 6 feet deep, no more, no less, 6 feet. I'm going to put somebody that just died in it. I'm going to cover them with dirt. And we're just going to come visit once a year on the anniversary.
Okay, well, I think the 6 feet thing, the 6 foot deep thing came a lot later.
Right.
Than you think it might have. It
Yes.
wasn't just like exactly 6 foot. I need like 3 yardsticks or whatever.
It wasn't like
Measure this.
Neanderthal, like this stick,
Yeah.
a 6 foot
This
stick.
deep.
This is it.
I'm sure it has something to do with agriculture and just like if there's a dead body lying around, people end up dying when there's dead bodies laying around. So let's probably put it somewhere.
Right. Like, disease and all
Right,
of that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Huge
but I mean,
pandemics.
you could think like there's this spot that we can put it. Who's like, let's bury it.
Right.
Like-
but like, I mean, you have to take it far away and then, your kids go playing in it.
I'm not
and,
saying it's a bad idea. I actually enjoy the idea of
No,
people
I
being
agree.
buried
No, I
instead
get
of
it.
bodies just being all over the place.
we're just explaining like,
I just want to know who was the first
I don't know,
person.
someone probably in agriculture. Someone is probably it's prehistory. Now, I will say though that one of the Hebrew words for hell that we know of today was actually this word of like, oh, he's just literally in the ground.
Was it Sheol?
No, wait, it might be that one, but I can't remember which one. There's like 2 or 3 different Hebrew words that they use for hell.
Yeah.
And one of them is like, it just literally means he's underneath, he's underground. Yeah.
And we took it and ran with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course we
That's
did.
a whole thing.
I
But,
feel like this
yeah.
is something you could potentially look up on Google, but I also think it would just give you something that's like, oh, well, the more recent way of burying someone is this, and this is who came up with it,
Yeah,
rather
it's
than just
Sheol or Gehenna.
in general.
This actually brings up to a great question. Because I've looked into it, like, when I go, like, how do I want to go? Like, where do I want to go? Because Jessica wants to, like, be a tree.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you like
Where
you,
they put her in like a little urn thing that has
it's
a
a
seed
pot.
in it that
Yeah.
you can go plant in the forest or somewhere. That's how you get haunted forest, man. Nah, I'm not messing with that.
I think it's more people dying in the forest than it is to put like
Right.
ashes.
It could be either way. You never know. We
Yeah.
don't know how
but
ghosts
that's
work.
great for
But
the
yeah, sure.
environment, and it's cheaper, I think.
I don't know about cost
so-
effectiveness.
My thing, if I'm going to have something done with my body specifically, I want to be turned into a precious jewel. Like I'm sure you guys have
That's
seen
really
this, where they cremate you and they like compound it and put
Right.
pressure, turn your body into a jewel, and then I want that jewel put into the hilt of a sword, and I want my children to avenge my death with that sword.
Wow.
Because I'm not dying
Avenge
of
it?
natural causes. I'm going to be murdered. I'm sure of
Oh my.
All right, Dwight.
What if it's your wife? Then what? Do you really want them to avenge you?
that. Then it's going to be one of those like they go for the vengeance, and then the big plot twist of the story is they find out it was mom,
And
and
they're
they
like,
can't
oh,
bring themselves
well,
to
just
do it.
kidding.
You just
Guess-
revealed the plot of The Northman.
Was that it?
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. See? Never watched that show. Well, there you go. So as long as they don't Northman my family, that's what I want. Otherwise, I don't care. Whatever's cheaper. Put me in a cardboard box, eat me off a cliff. I don't care.
Yeet.
I
Sell
told
my
Je-
body
I
to
told Jess,
science.
whatever's cheapest. Like,
Yeah.
just get rid of it. I don't
Yeah,
care.
like
Just
I'm not using it anymore.
donate it to science. I don't
That's
care.
what I've also thought about. Like, do I want to be donated to science? But then at the same time, like, There's a lot of like moral issues that can come with that. Like I really don't want to be put on like display in a museum somewhere. Like, you know, my carcass or like my bones. Like that would not be desirable.
Right.
But like maybe if I was put in like a body farm or something.
Look, man.
You know.
Well,
when you're gone, you're gone, and
right. Like
you're
I
not
really
using
don't
your body.
care.
Like I'm not gonna be looking back like, hey, stop that.
you know, in the early
Get me
days
off
of,
that stick.
on my early days of TikTok,
Where is
I
that
found
stick?
myself on this guy who was a he wasn't a, what do you call it? He was a scientist, and he just basically looked at cadavers and just like showed you like, hey, this is this body part and everything.
Right.
It's very cool and interesting, actually.
No, I agree.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, truthfully, I don't really care.
I've watched a lot of death YouTube. I'm on that weird side. I'm sorry, but just like in general, like how the
We can
funeral.
tell that about you.
I hate that, but it's fine. That's like I think Janelle told me the other week. She was like, you know, you look like you would have been a horse girl. I don't think I'll ever recover from that information. But anyways, that's besides the point. Just like in general, like the funeral industry and how it works, and it's really screwed up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's real bad. And so I really, whatever's cheapest, I
Yeah.
agree.
Throw me off a boat, or I don't know. Just
Truthfully, if you can make money off of me, go for it.
right. Yeah.
Like sell me on the black market, whatever.
My organs, I won't need them. I'm not going to need them.
Yeah, I don't understand people that don't want to donate.
Yeah.
Like,
Ubers.
sometimes I get it, like for religious reasons. Like if you believe the body has to remain intact, sure. But if that's not the case, why are you not donating?
To conclude this, that is why you should have a step-by-step plan for your death at the ready at all times and have your will already prepared.
Yeah, I definitely don't have that.
Yeah, we
I
need to
learned
get on that.
I learned that in my death and dying course, which was real not good when you're mentally ill.
Right? Probably why I haven't taken that course.
Yeah.
No thanks. I don't need a step-by-step on what to do.
Yeah. I have a packet if you want to look at it. But anyways, cool. Is there anything else you want to
No,
elaborate
that
on
was
that?
it. I wanted to know who and when. Like, was it?
I can almost.
or
I would bet most of my money that it was at the like advent of
somebody in
agriculture.
Agriculture, yeah, probably.
What specific part of agriculture? Like, what do you mean by
Like
ag?
when we first started, like, hey, we're gonna plant things and
Yeah.
can't have all these bodies laying around.
Yeah.
If
When
we're
people
gonna- if
when
we're
people
gonna
started
stay
staying in
this
one place, yeah.
Oh, so
Grandma's
going from like
dead, we can't-
nomadic to
Right.
Like normally
okay.
it's like grandma's dead. Oh well, keep on moving. We got to keep rolling.
Right.
But
Yeah,
now that we're
okay.
staying here, it's like, what are we gonna do with grandma?
Yeah.
she's got to go.
It's starting to smell bad, bro. Animals are coming. Like,
Yeah, that's another thing. You can attract.
Junior's playing with grandma's bones. Her phalanges over there. What's going on?
phalanges.
It's like it literally puts on a stick and it like bends.
You guys remember that scene in Bug's Life when they're playing with the cricket's antenna?
Yes. Oh, that unlocked a memory.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Great.
Moving on.
Thank
moving
you for
on.
this today, Chris. We
You're
really
welcome.
need that.
Think about that. I think about that once a day, easily.
I think I probably will too.
For the
I'll just
rest of your
text you. I'm like, Chris, are you thinking about it?
Yep.
I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we're going to move into.
What did I miss?
Very good. This is the part of the show where we like to present to you some news that you probably didn't hear about. First up, I'm going to go.
All right.
Found this thing today. And
Super pumped about it. I
yeah,
guess.
no, it was hilarious because I like click on it and it was like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what this is about. I didn't know. But basically, it's farmers making a pool out of hay bales to like, keep cool in the summertime. So
Like a swimming pool?
yeah, like
Well,
a pool.
I don't
Made
understand.
out of hay bales.
Yeah.
With the water not just like.
So, hear me out. So, this guy, his name is Jack Smith, and his friends spent 4 days building this pool. So, 2 days was setting up hay bales in like a square. And then they put like tarps and stuff on top of it and
That
like
makes sense.
liner.
Okay.
And then set it up to where it won't, like slip and get off.
Harley, I thought you were going
4
crazy.
days?
I thought the hay was a substitute for the water. And I
No,
was like, what is
that's
this?
Oh no, I
It's a
thought the
horrible
hay
idea.
was just like the walls of the thing, but there was no tarp. Like they just like figured out a way to keep water in with just hay.
Gotta make the clay, guys.
It's like, bro,
No. We're packing it in there. And then there was 2 more days of filling this pool with
Okay.
water. And so I'm like, dude, this is genius. Like, I mean, if you got the supplies, like, go for it. And I'm like,
if you
this
just happen to have bales of hay laying around.
right.
Yeah,
and
naturally.
so I was like, oh my God, like, yeehaw, partner, let's get on with it. Like, what in the redneck engineering. I love to see it.
Have you seen those guys that like make little
I was
pools
just
out of
gonna
their
say-
trucks?
I was just
Yes,
gonna say people
yes.
like that.
But hear me out. There's a plot twist here.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
This was not in the South. This was not even in the United States.
What?
Okay.
This is in Great Britain.
Oh,
I didn't know those guys had that kind of
I
ingenuity.
didn't
What's
even
going
know
on?
they had hail. Hail.
Hey.
I just combined hay and bale together.
Hail.
Hail.
what the hell? In the accent of the people you would expect to do this.
Yes. Okay, so basically, Smith, the guy, he's from, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Utexeter, Staffordshire.
You guys need to get your names in
Staffordshire?
order.
Staffordshire. He states, and I'm going to read this in a British accent, if it's okay with you guys.
Please go for it.
I would
Oh my
love
gosh, can
that.
I even do one right now? I have to channel it.
Whether or not it'll be good is a secondary question.
Exactly.
So we were at the pub and it was boiling. And so we thought the next day we'd build a pool as a kind of a hangover cure. The whole project took 4 days and there was about 13 of us working on it together.
13.
13.
Jeez.
And we couldn't have done it without working on it as a team.
Bloody brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you, Smith,
The
for that.
thing about this to me is, have you seen those? It's like two Indian brothers that build these pools.
Yes.
Like, out
Yeah,
of
they're fake.
just dirt. No, they're not. Why would you do that to
What
me?
do you mean fake?
What do you mean they're fake?
Explain it to her first, and then I'll explain to you how it's a lie.
It's two on YouTube.
Yes,
It's like one of
watch
those
them.
easy watching channels
Yeah.
where they just kind of dig pools and
And they build them.
yeah,
Just-
bare hand.
And I see
How
them
is it
bringing
fake?
the water.
Yeah.
And I know it's not blue. I know the editing is fake. But like,
No, exactly. It's heavily edited. I mean, they I've seen this guy on YouTube where he's actually dissected a video. It's like, oh yeah, you can see the excavator right there in the corner, and like, yeah,
excavator? What's
They
an
do it all by
excavator?
hand.
dig out the dirt.
No, they do it all by hand. I've seen them.
I mean, okay, I'm not going to blame them if they use, some help every now and again,
No,
right?
like they have a crew there, and they like.
no, it's just them. It's just the brothers. Don't do this to me.
But do they like actually sometimes put the stuff together?
I mean, they're there. They film what they film, but like they have a team and they like plan it out and they do it together.
I hate you for ruining this.
You know, screw it. I'll take it. It's fine. Capitalism. Got to do what you got to do.
I mean, they're still in
No,
what is
I
it,
don't wanna hear
Thailand
anymore.
or
I don't
wherever
want to hear
they're.
anymore. I'm done with you. I'm done.
Sorry,
Move on.
Wow. All right. Well,
Ruined my day.
I'm sorry.
so basically to conclude my story.
Sorry, but
is,
that is a fun story though.
yeah, British ingenuity, I suppose.
That's cool.
You got to face the heat waves somehow. I
know,
guess it's everywhere. It's
it-
not just in Texas.
You know, if I ever move to the UK or wherever else, I want to discover. Like, I need the comparisons. I need to know who are your hicks. Like, who is your. You know, I need to know before I go somewhere. Like, I need to know who I'm dealing with here.
like, who's your white trash?
Right. Who is your where's your racist at? Where are your your high end, California people?
Well, if you're paying attention to politics, the racists are in the government.
Well, yeah.
Well, that one we've been new. It's not.
Yeah, that's
that's
nothing
not
new.
surprising.
But I want to know, like, who are your West Virginia people? Who are your Colorado? Who are your Oregon or Seattle people? You know what I'm talking
What is
about?
the Texas of England?
Right.
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's a question we need to have.
We should post it on TikTok. I think we'd get more reaction.
Okay.
We'll get on that. All right.
We'll work on
Next
it.
up, Tim, what you got for us?
Cops take a load of recovered phones from a phone thief who committed crimes while wearing only his underpants.
Is that why you said take a load?
That's exactly why I said it.
Ah,
All right, I present to you all
the cops take a load.
So dumb.
a new hero. In Bangkok, reports of a thief named Robin Hood in underpants has been stealing hundreds of phones from branches of banana IT stores. He received the nickname after reportedly giving many of them away for free to the homeless.
Oh, period.
Yeah,
All right.
so
it's
the
a good story.
underpants-clad hero was identified as 23-year-old, I'm going to butcher this name,
23?
Jay is some... yeah, I'm going to say his last name, Hama, also known as Kamas, and was arrested on July 4th after a recent thievery. But this guy was just out stealing phones and giving a lot of them away to the homeless and, doing the whole Robin Hood thing.
So
I'm
he's
here for it.
literally Captain Underpants.
I
I'm here
had
for
that
Like,
thought, yeah.
grown
100% here for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
incredible.
But he did it only in his underpants. And I imagine it's so that they couldn't identify his clothing. But even then, I'm
Did
like,
he wear a mask?
that's what I'm assuming. I didn't actually read
it was
that or
an
not.
underpants mask as well. Like puts
They
tidy
never
whities
said
over
where
his
he
head.
had the underpants, is what I'm saying. He
Oh.
was just wearing underpants.
Oh.
Yeah, but he got caught he was scouting before, and they looked at the camera footage.
Okay, but how did the phones work? Don't you have to pay for service?
I don't know.
I mean, even if you do, it's a lot cheaper to pay for service on a phone that you already own.
Yeah, my cousin gave me
Then-
this phone. And
Yeah.
But
Then
no,
to
he's
go buy a
stealing
phone.
them.
Yeah.
I know, but you what I'm saying is, like, once you have the phone, then it doesn't matter how you got it. You can buy phones on the internet and
Well, this
activate
is
it.
Yeah, it's not the same as here. They don't track like serial numbers, I guess. Maybe. I don't know how it works.
Well, good for you, buddy.
I mean,
you,
he's
Rob.
caught,
You were
but you were doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, I am vengeance.
All right, so mine also involves crime.
Aren't we a bunch?
Nut
That was the
stealing
last podcast.
squirrel triggers store's burglar alarm.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, so as an alarm salesman myself, this story caught my attention. Police in England responded to a
England.
burglar alarm. England. Anybody?
No.
Black Knight. So there's a movie with Martin Lawrence called Black Knight,
Oh, yeah.
where they find the Queen of England at the time, and she's been hiding in just trying to stay out of trouble because the country's been invaded. But now it's time for her to come out of hiding and inspire England to fight back. And she gets ready to do this big speech, and that's the first thing she does. Everybody's like on their toes, ready for her, and she just goes, England.
Oh,
And everybody's just like, ugh.
fantastic.
All right, so nut stealing squirrel triggers store's burglar alarm. Police in England respond to a burglar alarm at a DIY store and arrive to find the culprit, a squirrel, stealing nuts and bird food.
Oh, not the bird food.
Yeah, squirrels like bird food for some
Dude,
reason. bro.
yeah, they
I
do.
don't
It's
know.
kind of weird.
My mother-in-law, Colleen, actually, we'll do an interview with her in a little bit. She has a like bird feeder type thing in literally every part of her yard, and there are always squirrels on it, just
Yeah.
stealing bird food.
Fatties. Oh my god.
Yeah, they're
Oh, thieves.
Gotta
right,
do what you gotta
exactly.
do. It's hard out here for a squirrel.
So Norfolk police tweeted that officers responded to the B&Q store in Norfolk while the business was closed on Saturday night. Officers arrived to find the alarm had been triggered by a trespassing squirrel who was stealing nuts and bird food. Unfortunately, he was too quick and nimble for us and got away, the police tweeted.
So you're telling me if you caught him, what would you have done?
Probably put him in tiny handcuffs.
Can
That's-
you imagine?
that's the most logical
Or, like,
way
you're
to go
going
about
to
this.
Jail. You're going to jail.
Now, the real question
What's
is,
their big
would he
prison thing over there?
would he be prosecuted as a bird?
Why would he be prosecuted
He
as
was stealing bird food.
No?
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Would they put him in bird jail or squirrel jail?
Squirrel
Squirrel
jail.
But why?
Because he's
'Cause
a
he's squirrel.
squirrel.
I don't understand what you're getting at here.
Are you trying to make this a
I don't know.
a race thing?
No, it's more like an age thing.
Age?
Yeah, like we were prosecuted as an adult versus as a child.
Oh.
Squirrel versus bird.
Scottish Yard.
Ah, thank you. Okay.
Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard.
Oh, frick.
Ah, so
This-
close.
Scott.
Look at me being all
Scotland Yard.
Scottish Yard.
Yard. Put him in the yard.
You were so close.
So close.
If I had known that's what you were going for, like that would have clicked immediately for me because Sherlock Holmes is my favorite book. But go on. So
Very-
yeah,
That's it.
that was the whole story. That was the whole story. The squirrel showed up, stole some bird food. They couldn't catch it. Got away.
I'm just mad that
Safely.
they were like,
Yeah.
we would have, we could have gotten him.
What?
Yeah, they like tried to catch him. That's the thing. Why not just like somebody hold the door open? Just like, he's a squirrel. Just let him go.
Joel, get the net.
You're not
It's
getting
like
away
the
this
animal
time.
catchers,
yeah.
like literally from every old English movie, and they got those huge
The
nets.
giant net.
Yes.
Yeah. Was that Lady and the Tramp?
Yeah. Or 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two guys.
yeah.
Oh, that's what I imagine. Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, we got some chaos going on today. I feel like we woke up and just chose
Violence.
violence.
Our story should have been like swapped from last episode. Like
No,
we had
yeah.
two crime ones this week, and we're just
For shame.
I think I did.
Well,
a
they
crime
didn't come
one
out
last
to
week,
this-
too.
You did. I don't know what I can't even remember anymore.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't really matter to me.
Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, I just know all the music too.
You do.
Tim doesn't know any lyrics.
No,
Just music.
literally, that's my problem. I'm like, I can tell you the chords probably, but I can't tell you the lyrics.
You know, that's okay. We'll take it. Tim's got background. We got everything
There
else.
you go.
All right, guys. We are going to move into a very exciting and wonderful interview with Colleen Saffron. yeah, that's really it. Be sure to stay tuned in. Woo!
All right, everyone, welcome back from the break. We are here with a special guest, and I want to just read off her bio. Colleen Saffron resides in Central Texas, where she tries to make every day a new adventure with her husband of 33 years, her children, and her grandchildren, while pursuing all the voices in her head that seem to continually whisper stories to her. Colleen is an advocate of people, whether it's encouraging expression in her grandchildren, autonomy in people with disabilities, or the ongoing journey of creating space for her voice. Welcome, Colleen. How are you doing?
I am good.
I would first and foremost like to say you should probably stop encouraging expression in your grandchildren, being that one of them is my daughter.
Oh, I live for Dragon Baby.
Yeah, just makes my life a little difficult. So if you could stop, that'd be great.
I did your wife.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I was just gonna say.
I understand that. Fair. You've earned this position.
I have lived for these moments. Every time my grandchildren do something, I'm just like, there is justice in the universe. So
But
yeah,
I didn't do anything to deserve it.
I don't believe that. I believe you just didn't get caught. You're like your brother-in-law.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, no.
You just didn't get caught.
Tim was there. He'll tell you. I just did not get caught. You are absolutely right. Well, tell us about yourself. Obviously, you are my mother-in-law, the grandmother to my daughter. Tell us a little bit more about that, about you,
About me?
who you are as a person.
Oh, who I am as a person. Well, that depends on whether you ask me now or 10 years ago. I would have at one time told you a lot of different things. I think as a person, I'm just kind of, my own little free spirit bouncing around in my own drum.
Kind of all over the place.
I used to have all kinds of rules that regulated my life and all these things I thought I'd do or not do. And now everything I thought I wouldn't do, I probably do. And everything I thought I would do, I don't care about anymore. So
Fair
I think
enough.
I'm just kind of, the ultimate free spirit at this point in my life.
I think a lot of us are getting to that point, though. Like,
We're just done.
I think COVID's been really good for that in a lot of
Yeah.
people, though. I think it's made us look at our lives again and say what really matters, because it isn't there. I listen to 80s punk, and what's the song? Birth, school, work, death. Don't ask me who's here right now because I can't think of it, but that would be, that's been everyone's attitude for so long. I think COVID readjusted that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's put a lot of stuff into perspective for sure.
Yeah. And good things and bad things. And I think it washed out a lot of things that we didn't even know were cluttering up and weighing our lives down.
Yeah, I think COVID, the advent of TikTok and other social medias like that have been really helpful, because now people are getting a glimpse into like how other people live, and they're like, oh, I like that. I want to do that too. So it's kind of spreading. It's been a really cool thing. All right. I think we should probably just dive right on in.
All right.
Anybody?
So, in the beginning of your book, you explain that these stories are your answers to the mysteries behind women's photos found in unique antique shops. So, what inspired you to seek out and produce the voices of the women that you ultimately may not have had any experience about?
So I'm a little bit of a nerd. No, I'm a lot of a nerd, particularly a culture nerd. I love culture, and I love anything related to how people live every day. I read history all the time, but the truth is the only thing you really read about women historically were women of substance. I have a mad love for like Tudor England, but everything's based on wealthy women, and we can only guess. And I was one day, I was standing in an antique shop looking at a painting, and the painting was a Victorian woman, and it was very beautiful, but her face was so sad. And from that moment, and I actually took a picture of it, and from that moment, I'm always like, what were these women really thinking? They were literally powerless, and they were property.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, like, what were they doing? So I started reading, and I couldn't find much. And I began to delve into the cultures and understood so many more things. They talk about diaries. Everyone's like, well, everyone kept a diary. Well, sure they did, except that I found out that women were often very particular about their diaries because it was their legacy to their families.
Right.
Right? So not everything went into
A
it.
little more uppity and a little bit more.
It's the highlight reel.
Yeah.
It basically is. I guess, their version of the social media event. It's here's all the good things. When it talked about difficult things, it wasn't raw and it wasn't real. I think that the only time the raw came out was maybe between friends.
Right.
And so I was just fascinated with the concept that no one had ever really gone deep into the heads that way to
Right.
try to create something that might have actually happened.
Interesting. Well, that kind of actually leads up to the second question I had, because it really kind of makes you think about what you label. I think it was in the very beginning of the book, is about the good old days. So what did you find in your research, or maybe are there examples that you could think of that really made these women's lives so difficult? Like what, I mean, obviously we know patriarchy has been a thing, but what kind of specific examples or things that you can think of that really you found that just kind of restricted these women from voicing out their opinions in their journals, their diaries, and what did you discover?
Well, this will probably somewhere along there, if someone asks how I did the research, I'll just say this will probably step into that realm.
Yeah.
But so one of the things I discovered early on when I was actually researching a thing for my college paper, so it would have been about 10 years ago because, I was one of those old ladies in college. And I found out that aside from criminal records and most of history, there isn't much on women, right? So I decide, how am I going to find the stories? Because I'm not going to lie, I like dark humor.
Yeah, we've become very familiar with your dark.
Edward Gorey, anyone that's interested, best writer in the world, The Beastly Baby, holds my heart.
Edward Gorey is like the author, the literary version, I guess you could call it, of Tim Burton, for those who don't know.
Oh, okay.
But you don't like Tim Burton.
I don't think he's dark enough, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
I
saying
just
something.
don't get into it. But Gorey is obvious when you read his stuff. He just looked at humanity. I always think of him as like a comic book version of Poe.
Yeah, that's a very apt description. He holds a broken mirror up to society. Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, but I started doing the research, and so I found out if I took places that I was interested in setting my voices, because I wanted it in the U.S., and I'm very careful, and I should blanket this with, there are certain things I did not delve into, even though I'm sure there are stories in my head I could create. I stayed out of people of color's story. That's not mine to tell. I stayed out of people that might have been in the LGBTQ community. Don't ask me why. I just totally transverse those letters.
Dyslexia. It happens to us all.
I'm old. But I stayed out of their stories as much as I actually have a couple of pictures that I really think might be their voices. And who knows, someday I might delve into it, but I would only do it with someone of that community directing it. Mm-hmm. I stayed out of Native Americans, and I think that was just a respect. But
Sure.
as I started to research, I was like, okay, so where do I want this set? I'm from Pittsburgh area, right outside of Pittsburgh. We're the foothills. It's like the Paris of Appalachia, I guess. That's such a strange.
Up in the mountains.
I mean, Pittsburgh is Billy Goat country, but I was starting to look at that, and I wanted to kind of stay with the region I was familiar with to start. So I'd pick a little town, and I'd go to their historical society for that town, and I couldn't find anything. And I was getting frustrated. And then one day I was just like scrolling through, I don't even remember, some town in Ohio, and I clicked their haunted tours. And so when I clicked their haunted tours, I started getting stories.
Oh, that's cool.
They do all the research for you.
Exactly, because
Copy, paste.
women are often not discussed outside of criminal records at that
Right.
time.
Right.
So
Because well-behaved women seldom make history.
And some of these were pretty cool. I admire the fortitude. So I started looking at their ghost stories and found out you can find out what kind of crimes happened. And when you find out what kind of crimes happened, then of course you can research. This is going to sound funny, I have an Ancestry membership. I almost never look up my family because it's so confusing. But with it comes the newspapers.
Oh.
Subscription in that.
Okay.
And I can then go look up the stories, and they go all the way back, as far as the paper. And that's how I started finding ideas, because almost all of them are based on, not exactly, but I've used the information I've gotten from a lot of the crimes or a lot of the situations that went on in the towns.
Right.
And little towns are fun to find.
Yeah.
Really scandalous stuff.
Well, I was gonna. That brings me. I'm sorry to interrupt your question, but that leads me to, because I grew up in a small town. I grew up in like a 800 maybe population town in East Texas. Did you find there to be a lot more story to find within those smaller communities than in the bigger ones, even though there's less resource? Like just kind of, I guess, more enriching stories. Because in small towns you have that more talkative, more close knit group of people.
I think small towns are really proud of their lore.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. So where I'm from, Beaver County is just outside of Pittsburgh. It's a bunch of small towns. I mean, like our towns are so, my dad lived in Fair Oaks, which was Allegheny County, I think. And across the street was Ambridge, which was Beaver County. So, I mean, that'll tell you how closely our towns all run together. It's just this long line. And each little district, each little place is so proud of their own folklore and what makes them better than the block over. So you could really find a lot of little things in there because people play it up. It's also in a world where small towns are overlooked by tourism, and tourism is your economy.
Yeah.
That's where the ghost stories came in. People started their haunted tours, or if something happened in this area.
Yeah.
And you can see it. Terry and I take road trips all the time, and I see it along the highway all the time. Anything to get people in. So I think that was the thing, because they preserve it better. They build their
Right.
stories better. And when I say build them, they use them, to create a whole, and a prime example is the town Lizzie Borden, and I just flew out of my head, but where Lizzie Borden was, of course, they've got like a whole museum and everything.
Yeah.
Well, because we're fascinated with the macabre. All of us are, and people who say they aren't lie.
Look, our last podcast was about true crime, so we understand. We get it.
That's my thing. So.
Well, yeah, so basically that boils into my next question, which was, how did you do your research? Obviously, like you said, you went to the historical small town websites,
But on top
all
of
of that
that,
stuff.
you have to, so dating the pictures became my biggest challenge. And everyone's like, oh, well, just go by the clothes or whatever. But in small towns and rural areas, and particularly early in the
It could
1900s
be like
and
20,
everything,
30, 40 years behind.
they could keep the same clothes for a long
Yeah.
time. So I got really frustrated at times. So then I started looking at hair. Hair gave a lot away. Hairstyles for women tend to give a lot of information.
Sure.
And there were little things like, I have one picture, I had such a hard time dating it because the guy's wearing a skinny tie, but the women are in clothes that look Edwardian. But in the 20s in rural areas, flappers and stuff
Right.
weren't running around the small towns. They were still pretty
Yeah,
traditional.
what we know as the 1920s women's fashion was high fashion, and this is
Very
little more
specific set.
more rural.
So it was interesting. And then I also, ever since I was a young teen, I have collected books on how women, like I have one called Viva Lord. It's a perfect 20th century woman. It was written in 1904. It was like scandalous. I mean, it has anatomy in it. It has everything.
Ooh.
And I'm right.
The 1904 OnlyFans.
This is, 1904, and they tell the women not to wear corsets, which at the time was a really controversial thing.
Really? Interesting.
And so I'm going through all of these, and I use those for giving lifestyle information, like what would be the expectation for the women to do, or how do they actually, as opposed to what they actually did.
Right.
There were a lot of kids tied to chairs, by the way, and fences.
They probably
Kids?
deserved it.
who knew that the way that they would keep track of their kids while they were trying to work, whether in fields or whatever, is to tie them to something.
Well, I guess they're not running off getting killed.
It's the same thing you do with like a dog. You put the little post out in the field, and you're like, all right, Junior, I'm gonna go pick some corn. You stay right here.
I kid you not. I read a story about a tenement in New York where the woman and her mother worked. There was no man of the household, whether he died or whatever. And this was in like 1890 something. And this woman, in order to work, and her mother, they worked like 12-hour shifts, would tie the kids to a chair in the kitchen and have the neighbor check them once or twice a day. And they were like 6. They were like 4 and 6, and this was perfectly acceptable. I understand the temptation.
It reminds me of the baby cage.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
The baby cage.
Have you seen those? The in the apartments, they had like those little baby cages
On the windows?
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Man.
Yeah.
How did we get here? How did America survive?
Bro, I don't know.
Even just between my generation and now is, yeah, mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of baby cages and tying your children to a chair, what are some of the most what are some of the most interesting details that you found in your research? Like the individual details, like something that just stuck out to you.
I think some of the things that stuck out to me, particularly reading like transcripts and things, whether, first of all, the mental health issues, women who had opinions were just dropped into asylums a lot of times, or if a man wanted to own their property, and everyone likes to think that wasn't in the U.S., but it absolutely was. Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, the idea that a woman mourning her children, I think this is one that really stuck with me, is when women mourned their children dying, and you're talking about a time where if you had 5 children and 2 survived, you were doing great.
It was common, yeah.
Where my grandmother was born, and that was in 1912, they didn't even register their children until a year after they were born. They had to get through that first year.
Yeah.
So I think, and so women who maybe mourned their children too long or something, they were diagnosed with like melancholy or something and institutionalized. And it was horrific. It wasn't just the criminally insane when you read about Nellie Bly. I mean, it was horrific.
Yeah.
There was a long list I just pulled up of reasons to commit a woman in like the early 1900s to mental institutions. Some of these are jealousy and religion, egotism, fighting fire, nymphomania, which that makes sense. I mean, if you got to put her away for that, right? Politics. Politics. Mm-hmm. If a woman talks politics, you can have her committed. So, asthma. Let that one sink in, Tim. If a woman has asthma.
But you notice this is if women have asthma, not if men do.
Yeah. My
like
favorite.
Somehow having a female form makes asthma all of a sudden like a hysteria instead of a medical condition.
My favorite 2 are desertion by husband. So if the husband leaves her, she can be committed because
you must have done
it's
something
her
wrong.
fault, right?
Yeah.
And this one specifically for the adjective deranged masturbation. I don't know what that means.
I think that was 50 Shades, but
I don't know what that means, but she could be committed for that, whatever it is. Also, gunshot wound is on this list.
It is. It was really interesting. It wasn't just the mental institutions, though. Places where they sent unwed mothers to have children. Places where women were treated for certain conditions. I mean, just this whole regime of ice cold baths and all these things, and you're sitting there going, this is horrifying. And yet, and yes, men did get sent away, but at the numbers, it was women.
Not the same rate.
It's definitely
it was
not
women,
the same rate.
and it was to keep us in our place, which seems to be the theme in the U.S.
Of people in power? Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Don't let that woman think too much of herself, but it's just amazing to me to read. And yet, one of the things I wanted to do with this book, and I've been asked to do more, and I don't know that the voices will ever leave. I wanted people to see that the struggles haven't gone away. Everybody keeps saying they've gone away. We go back to that good old days thing. It depends on who you were, how good those old days. I mean, if you were like a middle-aged, born in the U.S., no accent white man, it might have been
With money.
You could earn money, though, if you were a white guy that could pull off you weren't Catholic or, of Jewish descent or what have you. You at least had options. And so for them, it might have been a really good time. But for most people, it was just really hard.
For 2 out of the 3 people at the table here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm disabled too, so we sit and look at that, and I'm like, I can't hear, so that would have been a reason to put me in an institution.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
I mean,
that and you think, so.
It's terrifying, right?
All right. Well, next question then. You are, I would say, a well-traveled person. You've been all over the place. You like you
in
said,
the U.S., I should
you
say.
and Terry take road trips all the time. How would you say that your travels and the people that you have met have impacted your writing, specifically with voices, but just in general, your writing?
So my trips actually, a lot of them generated out of my ideas. We go to a lot of the places. That's how we ended up in Trinidad, Colorado.
Yeah.
One of my voices is set there. I didn't know things about it, and I was like, I got to go to this place. And now what I had read on some of the information, I'm just warning you, if you ever look at my search history, yeah, whatever. Don't think about it. I'm a writer. But
It's a scary search history, truthfully. I've seen it.
it's not just scary. I mean,
Terry should worry.
It's really questionable. So,
How to get away with murder.
no,
How to
no,
bury a
no,
body.
no.
Where
It's
to
more
bury
like
a body. How much does lie cost?
where were the most brothels? That was a big one. Actually, I found what was the life of sex workers like in the 1800s? What about, if you ever read about the blue laws in New York, well, they kind of were everywhere, but New York was a big one. One of the things I was interested in, because I did start to delve into what made... I have this one picture, and I'm not going to lie, I really think it might have been someone that was transgender at the time. And I thought, what a fascinating story. But I won't touch it. It's not mine to tell. But still, I started looking it up. It's actually how I found one of my favorite podcasts. Was I wanted to read about what were the attitudes towards sex workers, what was the attitude. And it's funny, nobody really cared. They just expected them to exist.
Yeah, we put a lot of values from like the 1950s on older times, but the 50s is really when it started becoming a big deal to be the like centralized American family, 2 kids, a dog, a white picket fence. Like before that, families were very different. People thought very differently.
Well, there was also the big issue that in the early 1900s, there were a series of revivals, religious revivals and everything. And they really impacted
Thanks, Billy Graham.
how people started living. They weren't necessarily, and neither here nor there as far as was it right, was it wrong. I'm one of those people that believe. I understand we have some basic things when you're starting to infringe on another person's human rights. You have just crossed the line. That's where laws live. But as far as what you choose and how you worship and all that is different. But it became this public theme, this fervor. And of course, after the darkness of World War I and all the horror, and then you see all the young people losing their minds in the 20s while the older people are, and it's because it was such a time of darkness and loss. And I think that we tend to want to remove the dirt from the sidewalks and that. But the problem is when we do that, we lose the richness of who and what we are.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it.
My question. So what inspiration have you found both in your research, but also do you feel like other women, especially in this new generation, can find inspiration in this book and in these stories?
I think that women today are strong, but we have more ability to speak it and live it. There's still a long way to go, a long way to go. But I think that it is amazing as I started digging into things is women had very little option. There were about 4 paths you could go, all of them very limited. And looking at that, I'm amazed by the resilience of women who did things. You know, when I started reading about the wagon trains, and the one voice, her name's Cassie. And just so people know, I mean, there's 30 different flash fiction stories. So you've got 30 different characters, but they're all fully developed in like 1,500 words or under. So you're playing with a lot of different places. But there's one, I did Cassie, and when I was reading about the crossings, and I read about that in school and stuff, and I had heard about it all my life. I mean, I read Little House on the Prairie, didn't we all? But to read the realities of the hardships of moving across the country, and what they faced, and the number of them that did things that by today's standards would be considered so scandalous. I mean, they'd hook up with someone, someone's wife might die on the trail, someone's husband might die on the trail. They just hook up and, they just pretend they're married. And there's nobody questioned it.
Right.
Nobody thought anything of it. Or burying their children and
eating each other.
Well, we're not all Donners. But,
not all of them, but some of them were.
They say that wasn't as common as we might think. However, I also found out that there were quite a few women who, by any definition, would be serial killers.
I believe it.
There was a woman in Kansas that used to board for people who were getting ready to cross the Rockies, and the boarders always disappeared, and she'd have all their equipment so that she could sell it to the next people.
Yep.
She was killing them and feeding them to the pigs. Her kids are who told the people.
Yep. Makes sense.
I mean, literally,
she should have turned that into a business, truthfully. Like, hey, if you're a woman and you don't like your husband and he wants to make you move across the country, come on by my boarding house.
But I mean, she would take these guys that were going across. I think I'm also amazed the number of men who went west and literally went and built new lives and left and just abandoned families. And now, with Ancestry and 23andMe, they're finding their families, and they're like, wait, we thought he died, but they didn't. And it went on all the way through the Depression.
Yeah.
It still happened after that, but it was very common all the way up till then.
I've heard a few stories of people like that. There's one guy that I think had 6 different families. He just, every 3 or 4 years, did that. He just abandoned his wife and kids and started a new family.
I imagine, maybe that was how the men were practicing birth control. I don't know. Just leave them, and now I don't have to deal with them. I don't know. That really was part of it. A lot of the men didn't want tied down to families. They didn't like the noise. Birth control wasn't just a revolution for women. Somebody was paying for all of those kids at the time. So it's really interesting to read about their resilience and the decisions they were faced with. I mean, women were faced with some pretty things. You'd be a sweatshop worker or a factory worker, abominable hours. Your kids would have to go to pennies on the dollars. Your other options may be a teacher, but that was if you had been kept in school to learn.
Yeah.
And you had to pass the exams and all of that. And if you weren't a person in your town that had the proper reputation, it didn't matter how smart you were. They would never let you teach their children. Right. And if you did anything that was questionable, you'd be fired. Yeah. So a lot of them were hookers.
Yeah. I mean, do what you got to do. Get that bag.
It was the best option for them to own something. And a lot of them as sex workers would then, after their time, if they were wise and save money, which it just depended. There was a lot of addiction and abuse and early death.
Which you would imagine.
Oh, well, I just want to say, too, by the way, drug addiction is not new. I love when people say we have these epidemics. I'm like, golly, the use of morphine after,
right.
Particularly after the Civil War, morphine use just shot through the roof. But they'd move west then because out west they could own property.
Yep.
So it was interesting to see that, and I'm really impressed with the resilience to live as a second-class citizen and to yet still leave behind legacies that we as in this time can say, wow, look what they did. I think that's impressive.
Yeah. So as artists, generally in whatever body of work, there is a level of projection that you put onto your art, and vice versa. So, in what ways have you seen that in both ways?
Well, we don't have time for all the trauma I've lived through. I'm just saying.
We could do a separate podcast on trauma.
Oh, Lordy. Yeah.
Always more trauma.
Yeah. I mean, I did not always have the best of circumstances when I was younger, but there were some good things that came out of it. But I can see the use of trauma and choice, definitely. You know, what choice do you do and what do you do to survive? Or how do you deal with the really difficult things? Or I go back to that one Cassie where she's buried her kid on the trail. She's gone through all this trauma. And yet she's sitting there thinking about maybe next year we can actually build a house and get out of the ground because they're living in Saudi. So I think there's definitely that trauma thing in there and that ability to look at it and just make the best out of what's happened. You know, you don't get many choices on what's handed to you.
Right.
So then you got to figure it out. And what we would consider maybe a bad choice or a terrible thing to do or whatever, we're not the ones standing there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I'm not going to lie, I'm also really impressed with the number of women that were able to do their husbands in that were exceptionally abusive.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that hard. There was a lot of that, and they didn't get caught.
I would imagine so. Murder was probably really easy before DNA.
I don't know if it was easy. I mean, the police still did, but I am amazed at how much more common it was than I thought of casual ways. Unless police were called in for things, communities kind of handled that stuff on their own.
There's a story that Janelle really likes, which worries me a little bit, but
She is my daughter.
there's a woman that like slowly poisons her husband like over time. And she just gets like the greatest amount of joy out of knowing what's about to happen. Like when he dies, he's just gone. She's just like, yeah, it happened. My husband's dead.
There was a woman in England that did that with numerous husbands, and she just moved from district to district. She'd collect their life insurance, and
they
she just
move.
moved from district to district, and it took them, I think she went through like 5 before they caught her. Wow. I mean, it's one way to be on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, we are all about women here at the Always More podcast, and whatever you got to do, baby.
No, I'm not saying that because nobody's coming after me. I'm just saying it's what we look at.
In 30 years, if you haven't killed Terry by now, you're not going to.
That's what I keep telling them. That's what I keep telling them. I'm like, baby,
from
you're
what I
okay.
understand, he has been the same person since you guys met. If you haven't killed him by now, he's probably got at least another 30 years to
I
go.
told him I need entertainment. And just so people know, I am married to one of the craziest but most amazing humans on earth. But he is nuts.
In a good way, usually.
But he's nuts. I never know what he's doing next.
All right. Speaking of projection, do you have a favorite voice out of the 30 some odd that you have in the book there?
A favorite.
Because I can tell you right now, mine is Flora.
Oh, well, I love Flora because she was my first one, and she was fun. But the one that haunts me because I know she's probably a million little girls that existed was Leah. Leah was the one when I did the research on her, and I don't want to give away like every story, but
Sure. Well, just this one.
But Leah, her mother is in the sex industry, and she is being groomed to follow through. She's a child that's used first for the men and then groomed. And I think the reason I wanted to do that is it's little things. What's the musical Gigi? Okay.
Oh.
Marie Chevalier. Don't ask me to say anything French. I'm massacred. I'm from Pittsburgh. Chevalier, whatever. And I think it's Leslie Caron. Anyways, she's a very young girl that's being groomed to be the mistress of this older man. Mm-hmm. And we've made it this great musical that everyone loves.
Right.
So I kind of took that concept and I showed you the real side of it, that dark side.
Yeah. For people that are just listening and not watching, Leah kind of looks like 11 from Stranger Things. Little Millie Bobby Brown there.
Oh, yeah. A little resemblance.
like from season 1 or 2, and it's insane that these girls are going through that. Like, they're real people that went through that, and
Well,
obviously
and they're
this-
still going through it.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that's the thing. We still have people that are grooming these very young children to do this, and we somehow we skip that part. We say that it's wrong, but then we idolize these weird relationships we see, whether it's in movie stars or whether we, Gigi or, all the different books that are on that. And you sit there and you wonder, when did that become entertaining? Like something to see as a happy-go-lucky, fun thing to watch. And I think that, so doing the research for her was really hard. Like that one weighed on me because I started delving into like the records of understanding that people didn't even really have a child abuse system.
yeah,
But
there was
just-
nobody they could turn to.
or reading accounts, or the Smithsonian has a thing where they have a lot of older people just recorded interviews. I did interview a lot of older people too that I knew, or if I would send questions to someone that had an aunt or cousin or whatever that was much older. Some of the answers and things were heartbreaking, and I had asked them very specifically when I did it, please do not just make it all sound good.
Yeah.
I mean, I want people to understand the struggle
Not
to
the
live.
reality of it.
Yeah, we do have a terrible habit of not. I find so I find that a lot of my friends that are from Europe and England tend to appreciate the stories more than most, and I think it's because they're not quite so in need of that happy-go-lucky all the time thing.
Yeah.
Like their history's long and dark, and they know it, and they accept it, and
They've
they
gotten
don't
used
try
to
to
it.
hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Leah, though, she kind of, she gave me nightmares doing that research. Reading some of the things I did was really hard.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Okay, so you brought this up earlier. As a minority writer myself, sometimes I find it difficult to tell a story involving other people, but more specifically involving my people sometimes it's hard. Did you have any of that while writing about women?
So I'll tell you now that everything I wrote, I questioned myself like 40 times.
As a good writer does.
I mean, are you really a writer if you're not riddled with self-doubt?
Are you really a writer if you haven't
fear.
deleted everything you've written and tried to
Or at least burned it once.
Yeah.
Thankfully, this is the first thing I've ever written consistently where I didn't destroy any files. Or even I write everything longhand first, and then I dictate it into my phone, because I hate to type, and I'm really bad at it. So I dictate into my phone, or my husband got me a rocket book a couple years ago. Revolutionary.
Excuse me, your husband?
Yeah, my husband got me the rocket
Yeah,
book.
we also helped.
Okay, everyone got me a rocket book.
We all
Wait
put
a
into
minute.
that.
What does Jordan say? Say you're the favorite without saying you're the favorite.
Yeah.
But okay, so they got me this rocket book. And it's this notebook, and you just write in it longhand. You have to print, or if you're going to write, you can't do full cursive, but I tend to connect my printing. And so then you take the picture, and it transitions it to text.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to write longhand. I don't know what it is. I have to write it and rewrite it. It's how my brain works. Excuse me. So I think that was a huge help, but everything I do, I question. Everything I do, I find impossible. Every story I wrote, I was sitting there going, I haven't necessarily lived this. I think that the one thing you can take when you're writing is everyone's dealt with some sort of trauma in their life. And how that has impacted them is, you've seen the pictures of like a little kid and a grown-up walking through the mud, and the kid's got mud to his waist and the grown-up's got it to, just above the ankles type of thing. I mean, we're all in the same thing, sure, but it's not going to impact us all the same. So I think that we all can connect to trauma. We can all connect to joy. We can all connect to pain and choices. So I had to take it from that perspective. And I want to say that it actually took me a year longer to finish this than I planned. And it was literally crippling self-doubt. Just crippling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
Well, I guess my question for that then is, within all that self-doubt and all the refiguring things out, did you try to dabble with other genres or styles,
I already have. I'm already working on a memoir. series of essays. I have found that today's readers, not everyone, but if you're trying to attract younger readers, it's not the same as it used to be. They don't all want big, long books. They tend to read in smaller spurts, shorter attention span. Whether it's good or bad is not even an issue to me. It's just that it's how people read now.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, I don't
I can't
care.
tell you how many articles I've read in the past week, but I can tell you I have not read an actual full book in years. Like, if it's not audiobook, I probably don't have time to sit down and read
I
it.
read both, but I think part of the thing, one, I've always been a big reader, but my other thing is I don't hear well, so audio learning is, I mean, I do it, but I have to really concentrate to do that. And I think that, where was I at here on this? So when they read, they're reading things that are shorter. And so when I do my writing, I try to make everything kind of, I don't want to say it's all flash fiction, it's not. Mm-hmm. But I try to keep it in almost like blog length.
Okay. To the point.
Yeah, just to keep people's interest. Yeah. And so the memoirs I'm working on right now are about my own childhood growing up. They actually, I started writing because even my kids weren't fully aware of everything that I had gone through as a kid. And so I started writing them just so that they were there.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting because my family, I mean, my mom's still alive and there was a lot connected to that situation, but I let her read them before I, do anything with them. I mean, I don't know what to say to people when they're like, "Oh, that's horrible. She's still alive." Well,
she knows what she did. She was there.
She knows the impact. She knows, all the things that happened and how it impacted us. But I think that I have to be clear too. We tend to look for villains and heroes in stories,
right.
And in real life,
it's very rarely that black and white.
We're all a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Everybody's somebody's villain.
Yeah. And you can at the same time be one person's hero while you're being a villain to someone right next to
100%.
them. Right. And it has a lot to do with relational interaction, and that's all deeper. But I do think that, people need to maybe start putting their stories together, if not for other people, but for themselves. There's a lot of healing that can happen in that too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of nightmares too, but I mean, those go away.
Oh yeah.
It's like taking stupid walks for your mental health. It's just kind of good to get it out and just kind of good to stretch out, and it's good to let your emotions and feelings come out in pen. And
it is cathartic, but also like you guys did your whole deconstruction thing, and I think there's a lot of us that have gone through that process, whether they're younger or older or whatever. That's been a huge thing in our life too. But there's something incredibly healing about finding out that other people have walked those paths with you, and until you I just read a thing I had written a while back that says, what I love about writing is I get to share my soul with other people, and what I hate about writing is that I share my soul with other people.
Yep.
And so I mean it's that conundrum, it never goes away, and I really believe some of us were just born to write stories or write, and I do think that's because it's something I've always wanted to do. Even if that never goes well, which I actually think it's pretty darn good after reading it, after I was all done and it was printed. But it was my dream at a very, very young age. I think I was probably 6 when I wanted to write my first book.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember ever not wanting to write. So it was a dream. It was something I did. And, my husband, he's great. Because everything that was dreams, Terry's just like, do it. He's
very supportive.
He is hugely supportive, and my husband loves ball breaker women, as he calls them. Obviously,
he raised a pretty good one.
I mean, my girls are forces of nature, and he likes to remind people I'm not exactly a pushover. I like to think I'm very sweet, but evidently I'm a little scary. But still, I think that it's been great because he's watched me realize my dreams. But even my kids, they're all, you guys are all, around 30 or 30.
Janelle's 29 now.
You'll be 30 in February.
I'm already 30.
You're 30?
I'm 31.
I can never track it. There's too many of y'all now.
There's
like
6.
we've gone from 3 kids to there's 6 adults, and there's like 9 little kids, and there's like, I can't track it anymore. I understand my mother's
that's fair.
never pulling a date up thing more.
That's fair.
But all of you are around that age, but I think it's important for your kids to see you pursue your dreams even when you get older. We have a really weird society that thinks like once you hit like 40, everything ends. And then we have the other ones that totally deny that you change at 40, which you absolutely start changing as you get older. But I mean, so at 51, I released my first. Actually, I released it the week after my 51st birthday. So
Awesome.
Great.
All right. Well, I guess last question before we jump into the rapid fires. Will there be a volume 2 of Voices?
This is what the people want to know.
do you know how many people have actually emailed me or messaged me and asked exactly that?
Give me more.
They either want more of the voices, but also the other thing is they want me to turn each voice into a novel.
Wow.
So I will lay it out there that my ultimate dream would be some really amazing screenwriter would pick it up. Give me
could do
literally
like-
in my head.
You
I'm like,
could
this
do
could make
like
a great
a
miniseries.
Tom Clancy type thing.
Well, I don't know. I just think it would be a really interesting, like, series or something.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like Colleen Saffron's voices written by whoever.
You could just call it, I'll give away the rights if you'll pay off my house.
See, I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you.
I
We
am
will
not hard
sell
to please.
out today for significantly less money than you think.
No, I was going to say, yeah, $200,000, I'd be done. I'd just hand it to you.
That's always my favorite thing. Like, I would
I guess
sell out for $1 million. I'd sell out for $10 million. No, significantly less. Half.
I just don't want a mortgage anymore, so anyone that could help me with that. I mean, no, seriously, that would be a dream. But are there more? I don't think they're ever going to leave me. I think that somehow I'll continue them. I'm not sure how that'll play out yet.
Have you written any more since you published the book?
Only one, but I can't release her.
Can I have it?
No.
It's worth a shot. It's worth a shot.
No.
That's all right. I'll see you in writing group.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into some rapid fire questions then. Just some fun ones for the people.
All right, let's do it. You ready?
I am always ready.
All right. Who is your favorite author?
Edward Lee Masters.
Beautiful.
Edgar Lee Masters did Spin River Anthology, and if you've never read it, you need to.
We'll put that on the list. If you could go anywhere in the world to get away and just write for a few days, where would you go?
If you ask me that tomorrow, it's going to be different than today. Today, I would say a mountain in West Virginia and a cabin with air conditioning, please.
Country road.
Wow.
No, I really love I'm
Take
a
me
rivers,
home.
lakes, and mountains girl. I'm not an ocean girl. So white noise drives me nuts. But I do, Terry's aunt and uncle own a place in West Virginia with a tree house Airbnb. It is literally a house in a tree. I would go stay there. It's beautiful.
We need to take an always more retreat. Go do that.
Always more vacation.
Just be careful back there, Chris.
Yeah,
Oh,
I,
that's a
can't,
good
I
point.
gotta watch.
Never mind.
I'll tell you what, you go book the place and I'll just show up. You tell me where it is, I'll drive
his
there.
aunt and uncle are great people, but I'm just saying you're talking
But
way
the town,
backwards.
the town.
Okay, so what are your top 3 genres to read?
Historical fiction. I should make that clear.
Very
I
different.
read massive tome books. I've read all of Ken Follett's. I love Edward Rutherford, which is these 1,000-page tomes. I've read all of his. I'm actually finishing up China right now. So historical fiction, but it better be really good historical fiction. And please,
Because it's not always good.
No.
and for God's sake, please don't give me romance. And my other one would be, I like, and I'm not sure what they would be considered, but like sagas that follow families through history,
Okay.
like a family saga that'll take you through,
The lineage stories.
Yeah, I like stuff like that. I'm interested in like day-to-day life, and then
So
I do
basically all history.
I read a lot of cultural history. Like, I have some books that I think are supposed to be textbooks for some class, like on the Kingdom of Bohemia and the. Like, I love things that are the history of why we do things, or
Why do I
those.
collect these people in my life?
the worst plagues in history. That was actually one of my favorite
Those are
books.
fun. Yeah.
She loves that. You're a big history guy. Harley has a degree in history. Like,
Yeah.
these are the people that I collect.
I don't know. Maybe because I think when people are fans of history too, though, we're harder to BS. We're like, when people start telling us how things are working, I'm like,
That's probably it.
obviously you are not reading much.
I'm so good at BSing that I like the challenge. That's probably it. All right, next question. What do you do when you're not writing?
I sew.
Wow. Just
No, like I sew. No, if you come, I love sewing. I do it as a side gig. I make custom clothes. My grandkids have some of the coolest clothes.
That is absolutely true.
My grandkids have some of the
You
coolest.
actually just brought me some extras for our trip, so that's pretty
yeah,
cool.
I just made Ellie 2 rompers for the
Fix
and
my shorts.
I do sew a lot. I love to cook. Janella comes by that honestly. That runs all through my family. My father was a chef. I love to eat. So when we moved away from Pittsburgh and I found out that the rest of the world eats like soggy meat and potatoes, I had to. Well, everywhere the Army sent us was like in the middle of the country, and I discovered that it maybe wasn't what I was used to. It's so different now. Food Network changed everything. This was, back in.
Before Food Network.
Yeah, it was really
Before
different.
Chopped.
everything was
Yeah,
boiled.
I'm just not a, like,
Before Gordon Ramsay.
yeah, I had to learn to I already knew how to cook, but I mean, that was something. So I like to do that. And I guess the other thing I can say, and Christopher will back me up here, is lying on the back porch watching birds and squirrels.
Hey.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
It's so relaxing.
My back porch, and now that we've had it totally redone, is like, it's bloody hot right now. I'm not gonna lie, but
Get one of those outdoor fans, the Dysons.
right now I feel like it'd just be like having hair
Just
dryer.
blow. Yeah, hot air at you. Yeah, fair enough.
So do you want hot air just blowing at you, or do you want hot air just sitting around you? I don't know.
I'd rather stay inside, truthfully.
No, it is, I would say, sitting on the back porch. And the other thing, and Christopher can back this up, we love to have our kids over. We love to have the kids and the grandkids. And Terry, I mean, and he's not embarrassed by it, Terry can literally be moved to tears after our kids decide they just want to hang out with us and bring the grandkids. That's just... Because when we were young, that was the one thing we wanted more than anything in life, was that when our children were raised, that they still wanted relationships with us.
Yeah.
So
That's good. All right. So what would you believe, or what would you say was the best day of your life?
And if it's not the day that I join the family, I'm going to be a little upset.
Suck it up, buddy.
All right.
The best day of my life?
Chris came up with this question,
I'm
so I think he
kinda
was fishing for
old
that.
Here. No. The best day of my life, honestly, was the day Terry came home from Desert Storm. So this would have been
92, 3?
91.
91?
Yeah, I had to think about it because he was in Korea for a year before he came home from Desert Storm. So by my second anniversary, Terry had lived overseas for 19 months. That'll tell you something.
Wow.
I only had 3 months with him before Joshua was born, and he was gone. So that day, because to me it was kind of like the day that my life, I guess you could say my adult life, started.
Okay.
Which, and according to my grandson, which it's getting close to be.
Wow. That kid's a savage.
Yeah, my grandson
What, you're
yesterday.
51? So you're dying soon.
No, my grandson and granddaughter were playing family in the pool yesterday, and Joshua goes, "Okay, now I have to be an adult." Because at first he was the baby and Holiday was the mom, and then he was, the kid. And he goes, "Now I have to be an adult, and then I have to die." I was like, "What?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, I said, "Joshua, when does that happen?" He goes, "Oh, in about 50 years or so." I said, "Joshua, I'm 51. He goes, "Well, I guess it's soon then." Baby. I was like, Joshua's brutal.
Jeez.
Don't ask him unless you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't ask him questions unless you want to be hurt. All right. You said you like to cook and eat. What is your favorite food?
Greek food, Greek, Middle Eastern.
Writer's fuel.
I mean, like, anyone that comes to our house knows if it's Greek, Arabic, Lebanese, I'm all over it. I love the spices, love the flavors, love them. But honestly, all the food's my favorite because I really like to eat.
Same. I feel that.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we are bringing this to a close. Let's do some final thoughts. Do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
I'll tell you something that really happened to me on this one was I kept saying, I don't want to self-publish. I don't want to self-publish. That's like no one really wants it. And then the woman that published this actually, and I have to give Elaine a plug. She's amazing. And that's Elaine Pierce Writing. I would say a couple things. One, invest in a writing coach if you're serious, because you will quit. You will quit every day. You will not be consistent. You will not... you'll take something that could have taken you 6 months and you will stretch it out to 2 years easy. And we all know this. So her, and then there was another woman, Carmen Mendoza, and they were writing coaches for me. And that made a world of difference. Surround yourself with other writers. Going to my local writing group literally revolutionized how I approached all that. Because prior to that, I think writers have this arrogance. We're like, okay, I did all this blood, sweat, and tears to just write it out, so I don't need to edit it. That's how we start. And that's an immature early position. But as you go further into it, you find out there's a discipline and a craft and an art. You do have to edit it. You do need to take it apart. You do need to rethink your words. You do have to kill off the character or cancel your favorite line or redo it. Now, I will say, don't ever throw any of them away, because you never know. And a prime example of this is Flora is one of my first characters. She's the first character I ever did. That was with the Writers Guild Initiative, did a thing with caregivers, and they gave us mentors, and we started doing that. And I did Flora, and then I was going to do a book on Flora. And then I started trying to play with that, and it just wasn't there. And then, but Ruby's there in the background. Ruby existed. And I love that everybody kind of does a double take when they read the end of Flora, because they're like, wait, did that just happen?
Yeah.
But it did. And so I think that I took some lines from actually Flora, and I created Ruby. So don't ever throw away your words.
It all goes somewhere.
Keep them somewhere.
Yeah.
I call it the parking lot. Thank you, Tanya, wherever you are right now, if you're listening, because she gave me that idea of parking lots when we were working in nonprofit work. And a parking lot is where you put your ideas. They're really good, but you're just not ready to drive that car yet.
Yeah.
So just park it. And so never get rid of any words that get you. So even if you just write like 6 lines, just don't get rid of them.
Right.
I think at this point I probably have a parking garage. Just a bunch of
mine
like,
is multi-level.
individual lines and like titles of things.
But do you know how many of those things I started like pulling out of as I started doing this? I started pulling some, and I started saying, whoa. And sometimes maybe they didn't work for that. I have one picture that, dang it, I never got her written. I to this day, I just look at her and I'm like, I know what I want you to be, but obviously you are not that. And when I say they talk to me, like they talk to me.
Yeah.
Your characters become alive to you.
100%.
I know it's almost like you mourn as you finish them. You're like, oh my gosh, they're not going to be in my life anymore. Thankfully, I have a lot of family and friends who have joined me on this adventure who think it's like this coolest idea. And everyone I know when they go to antique shops now sends me snapshots of pictures they see, because that's what they think.
Fine.
And what an honor to think that just this random thing I thought was a way to occupy my time turned into something that inspires other people to start looking at it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that, Colleen, mother-in-law of mine.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Where can we find your book?
On Amazon right now. I do have some copies. I'm getting ready to order a few more. Okay, y'all, I don't market well. I write it, but I can market anything but myself. That I am learning quickly. But I'm going to start trudging around to some local shops and seeing if they'll let me put it in there.
That'd be
For
cool.
that, just because I think there's an interest. I think
Especially in
people
this
want
town.
something different.
Yeah.
I think people are. I love to read, and there's some great authors out there, but once you get to the point of 30 books, they all feel like a formula to me, and that doesn't mean they are. I mean, I am a huge Felipe Gregory fan, but it's almost like you want something different because you can tell a writer by their style.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like if you're always wearing like chinos and all of a sudden it's like, hey man, I think I want to try some jeans. It's that same thing. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it'll do something.
Cool. Well, we do have a librarian on our Always More staff, so we'll see what we can do.
Have some extras with me.
We got to figure out how to get it into the Dewey Decimal System.
Here you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
that
you.
interview, Colleen.
Yes.
We really appreciate you coming. If you guys haven't figured it out by now, her book is called Voices. You can get it on Amazon. Check it out. And I guess now we will head back into another break.
Yes, and we will have the link in our show notes and
Oh,
everything. So
absolutely,
if they want to find it, they can just look at our show
Click
notes
on
and
the
it'll be right
link.
there.
all 12 of our listeners. 12 weekly listeners.
12
All right.
weekly
I guess we'll be right back from this interview, coming back from a break, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. Don't go anywhere.
All right, friends, and we are back. So, what'd you guys think of the interview?
Loved it.
I had fun,
Yes.
truthfully.
I was watching it from over there. I came in late. I'm sorry, friends. But oh my gosh, she's just so eloquent in her answers.
She's a smart
Yeah,
woman.
I was like,
she's
dude,
probably one of the most intelligent people I know.
I'm obsessed. Obsessed. And it was even better because, like, obviously I graduated with my degree in history. And so, like, when she was talking about, like, a lot of the women's, like, rights and things at the time, like, I was like, dude, yeah,
Harley's like, I know that.
I know that. I know this stuff. You're confirming. I'm hearing it in person. Because it's one thing to, like, research it yourself, but, like, when other people know and you're like,
yeah.
oh my God, I'm not insane.
You guys could talk about it for hours.
Hours.
we need to just have our own history episode. That's what we need to do.
I swear. It
Yeah.
needs to happen soon. And we just need to. Well, no, Chris actually knows a lot of history too. More than he lets on, I think.
I do.
Like,
I know a lot about random things that you would not expect,
yeah.
and I can deep dive. And what I don't know for a fact, I can BS my way through.
And
So
even
let's
then,
do it.
he'll somehow, like, tie it in with what we're already talking about.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, well, speaking of.
It's my talent. My only talent.
I think it's quite impeccable. Well, yes. Colleen Saffron, Voices. You can
Yes.
find it on Amazon. We're putting it in the show notes. You have no choice. Also, it possibly going to do a giveaway.
I think so.
I think so.
She signed it, guys.
Well, we don't know what we're gonna do to
Correct.
to do it, but we'll figure something out.
We'll give you guys 2 weeks. We'll do this episode, and then the next episode will come out with what to do to win it.
Yeah. We'll
By,
figure
by the time this episode comes out, we'll figure it out. We would have figured out what we want to do.
Yeah.
Because this is like 3 weeks away.
Yeah. Maybe if you just ask for it. Probably not, but can't hurt.
Comment. Please comment.
Maybe we can do like a scavenger hunt throughout all the pods.
Oh.
Interesting.
Be like, what did we say at episode 3,
First person answer.
2152?
I like that. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah. And it's going to be good. So,
Or it won't be.
no, it's going to be great. Don't let him
It's gonna be fantastic.
downplay us.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to move into fan questions. Okay. So this is the part where we answer your questions. It sounds simple enough.
Pretty simple segment.
Yeah. So before we begin, though, we do have the Always More hotline.
No one's used it in like 3 months.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
has
it's
anybody
kinda
been using it?
I don't think so.
Come on,
I feel
guys,
like-
give us something.
And
Tim
we don't.
took time out of his day to set this phone number up.
And we don't. There's no one to like respond to you. It's not like it doesn't have to give you anxiety.
If you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. I don't answer it.
Yeah, no one answers it. You just leave the voicemail and call it a day.
Yeah.
And we want to hear your voices because that's sometimes way better than just reading out a question. You know what I mean?
Not that we don't appreciate you coming out with these questions, but we want to hear your voice too. you
Yeah,
know?
it adds a little twang to the episode.
There you go.
You know.
Gives us context.
So, Chris, what is the number that they can reach our Always More hotline at?
254-218-4042.
And Tim,
254-218-4042.
thank you. All right, first question. So, Matt, is this Maddie?
Yeah.
Maddie asked, what were annoying things your family did growing up that you find yourself doing now and cringe at?
Anytime I walk through the house, turning off lights, mumbling to myself.
I would say most of it's just like the
It's the
adult
dad
things.
stuff.
Yeah, the parenting things.
I'm not trying to light Colleen, or I'm not trying to cool down the state. Blah, 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 blah.
We have box fans because that's how Jessica's family was, and now it's how our family is now. And so it's me going to the rooms and turning off the box fans, like after the kids wake up or whatever.
Yep.
Very interesting. I don't know if I have any that are very distinct yet. I'm also young. I'm not a parent, and I don't own a home or anything of that nature.
We don't either.
I don't rent a home either. I live with a parent still, so I guess just anything that he does.
I've caught myself just parenting like things. Like I've never actually done it, but I've gotten close to it, or I've caught myself immediately after I did it. But it's like Ari would ask me like, "Well, why?" And it's like that whole, because I said so. And I'm like, "No, wait, let me give you an answer. This is why we don't do this." And it's just like it's one of those things that I don't ever want to do, to where it's just like it's my authority or my. It's like it's not about that. It's like
That's hard though, because sometimes the kids just like they don't listen. You're just do what I said.
Yep.
Just do it.
And Ari's at the age too where she asks why anyways, and so it's just like double. Like I love her, I want her to ask questions, and that's the tiring part behind it. Is like you want there to be that ingenuity and that curiosity, but it gets so darn tiring.
Ellie's at the age where she doesn't do it. She just screams no and then runs away.
Yes.
So
She's such a character.
Yeah.
But no, there was one time I was hanging out here with Aria, and we were going through her little medical book, and she was asking me about all of the body parts. And she was like, "What's that one?" And I was like, "Oh, it's your brain." And she's like, "What's it do?" I was like, "Oh, it does this." And she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Oh, oh, it does. It just does." And she's like, "But why?" And I was like, "Well, shit, you're asking the right questions, kid. Right. I don't even know, actually.
she's going somewhere in life, is what you're saying.
I need to find out, too. Once you find out, let me know." Like, jeez.
Little girl.
But no, I don't have any adult parental quirks yet that I am conscious of. Aside from like the basic things with like, say I'm like with friends and we're like driving, they like act fool and I'm like, "I will turn this car around." Like just like stupid stuff like that. But it's never like serious.
Yeah, there's a quirk for me, but see that's the thing. Is it nature or nurture? Where like for me, like I like to be on time for things, and so like for me, I want to be there 15 minutes early, if not earlier. So is that because my dad was that way, or is that just a personality
Probably.
thing?
Perhaps. I mean, your personality is formed from your parents.
Only science knows.
Nobody knows.
All right.
I feel like that's a song for
It is a song.
Oh,
The
is it?
trouble I've seen, nobody knows
thank
but
you.
Jesus.
Oh, it's a church song. Ish.
I don't know if it's actually a church song.
It's old though.
Okay.
I thought it was a Negro spiritual.
Is it?
Truthfully.
Okay, well then I take the groan back. That's sorry. That was
Wow,
real bad.
Harley.
Canceled.
No.
Canceled.
please. It was an honest mistake. Okay, next up, Tim, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, so we got an anonymous question, which, by the way, we now have an option for. So if you want to ask us something like super serious or something that you just don't feel comfortable revealing your identity for, that's perfectly okay. We have an option in our website to do that. So you just scroll all the way down. There's, ask anonymously. So this person asked, do you believe that smoking weed is a sin?
No.
Absolutely not.
I don't. I think for me, it's more of a scientific. We haven't had the years of research that we've had with like smoking cigarettes yet to really have conclusive science on the longevity of smoking weed. However,
I think it's been around long enough, and that's one of those like you can study those effects in a single generation type things.
right.
I think it's been around long enough that we're pretty aware of the science. They just don't want to put the science out there because
Maybe.
they've already spent so much time and money waging a war against it.
Yeah.
True.
They don't want to go back on it and be like, "Oh no, we realize everything's okay now." But that's exactly what's happening
Yeah.
with
yeah.
states that
Yeah.
are legalizing it. Not only are the people there happier and healthier, it is wiping out cancer cells. It's helping with other medical treatments,
Yeah.
with mental disorders, mental disabilities. The taxes alone in states that have legalized it are funding massive societal programs that are just helping everything. Like, there's no reason to not partake in that on a statewide level. Personally, if you want to not smoke, that's your own business. If you want to smoke, that's your own business. I do not think it's a sin simply because in the Bible, God gave us dominion over the earth, and we can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah. I think it's just the same thing with like anything else. Like if you want to view, it depends on what you're really, it really depends on how you view sin in general.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But if you think it's wrong to disobey the law, then it depends on where you live. But even then, it's like, to me,
and that's when it becomes even more confusing.
Right. There's nuance for sure, but it's like unless you are hurting other people, then I really don't care.
Which weed is not one of those drugs that makes you hurt other people.
Right. So
at most, you'll eat their food.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, my answer is no too, but for I think just different reasons. But yeah.
Also, I think what we view as sin and what God views as sin are two very different things.
True.
It also changes depending on the culture.
Yeah.
And if you even believe in religion.
There you go. So thank you.
Anonymous person.
Yeah, thank you, stranger.
Are they anonymous to us?
Yeah.
So like we truly have no idea who that
no
was.
idea. No,
Okay.
it's through that trend that's going on social media on Instagram right now where you share the link and it's like, ask me a question. I just set it up through our website. So
Oh, cool.
Very groovy.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you, Anonymous.
yeah.
Chris, you want to get this last one?
Yeah. My friend Ariel from Disney also. I have a lot of Disney friends.
You sure do, man.
That's
Answered.
quite...
Is anyone still
answer
work
this
there?
question.
Because we need like a hookup. That's what we need.
Yeah,
For
so
real.
I'm going to tell you one thing about people that work at Disney. They do not want to be asked for the hookup.
Okay, I know
They get that
but
from
do you know
literally
that?
everybody. Like, there are people that when I get there, they're like, oh, hey, come see me when you're here, and they'll hook me up then, but I'm not asking them for, like, ticket hookups and stuff, because, one, Disney doesn't do that for their employees.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's basically just their immediate family that, like, if you're married, your spouse can go. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. They don't do, like, whoever wants to come, you guys get a family discount for whatever. They don't do that anymore.
it's 'cause
They used to.
Really?
Not anymore.
Trash.
It's gotten
Well,
so
I mean, they have
expensive.
like 75,000 employees. If everybody did that for all of their friends, like,
Well, yeah, but they have like $7 billion, $1,000,000,000.
also true. Well, a lot more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think they
They're-
can
I think
afford
they're
it.
in the trillions
we
at
can,
this
we can
point.
even it out, guys.
Probably. I mean, 100% they could. Just they won't.
Facts.
Yeah. So, anyways, she asks, "Would you rather not brush your teeth for a whole year or not shower?"
Teeth.
And that is no cheating with deodorant or gum or anything like that to mask the odors. I am on the same train as Tim.
You would
I would
smell people
rather
so much
not
quicker.
That's
brush
true.
my teeth for a year and be able to shower than the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really debating on this one because, like, does that mean you can't use those, like you can't use, like, a baby wipe, like a little whore bath, you know what I mean?
It says no cheating, so I'm
No cheating.
something to mask
Specifically with
the odors.
deodorant or gum to mask odors, but yeah, I would say the wipes are included in that.
See, with your teeth, yeah, you're not going to be able to clean your teeth, but for as far as the smell goes, you can eat fruit, you can eat things that will freshen
Cover
your
it, yeah,
But for that, no, as a youth pastor, I can tell you right now.
Or drink coffee that'll like, oh, it's coffee breath. you know?
Right.
At least like it's bad, but you know why it's bad.
Yeah.
It's even worse if you don't brush your teeth. But okay, so here's where I've settled. You can get new teeth. You can never recover from the embarrassment of not washing your body. For a year around all of those people that you come into contact with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but will a year's worth of not brushing your teeth really make that big of a difference?
Yes.
I've known several people, especially if there's drugs involved. It's even worse.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
No, so I would much rather have the ability to shower and not brush my teeth. Because, like, bare minimum, I'm putting,
Put
like...
your teeth in the
I'm
shower.
putting-
That's what I was thinking.
I was going to say,
thinking
like, bare minimum, I'm putting soap in my mouth and just... It's going to taste awful, but it'll kind of, like,
Yeah.
clean it at least a little bit.
oh man,
But, like, I could not shower. Like, I'm at a point in my life as an adult where I can do what I want. So I literally will shower twice a day. Once in the morning, once at
Right.
night. And that's, like...
and then sometimes
Yeah.
you just go to bed without brushing your teeth. Like it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I usually brush
But-
my teeth while I'm in the shower, so I'm brushing my teeth twice a day as well.
Oh.
But
Killing two birds with one stone.
yeah,
Okay.
it saves time and water, I think. Probably not. Maybe not water.
I don't know.
Definitely time.
I don't.
But to answer that question, I would say I would rather shower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I
same.
would hop on that bandwagon.
All right.
That's it.
Very good. Wow, we went through those pretty quickly.
Zing, zing, zing.
Good, because that interview lasted a while.
Yeah.
It was a great interview,
Yeah.
but it lasted a good minute.
Yes.
It needed to last a good minute.
We're probably going to have to cut some things
Deserved
out.
for Colleen.
Yeah.
Deserved. All right, friends. Do you have any final thoughts for today?
Go check out Voices by Colleen Saffron.
Yeah. Especially if you're like into history and stuff like that. It's really a really cool insight into, because while the stories are fictional, it's based off historical context.
Yeah.
And
If you know a woman, if you love women, if you are a woman, go get that book.
yeah.
Check it out.
Girl power. That's all I'm going to say about that. Period.
That's what we're about here. You
Yeah.
have the sound. Hit the sound.
I don't know. It's not set up yet. Christopher, stop putting me under pressure. I don't have it set up here.
Harley would have had it ready.
I'm done with you. Harley's close to show house.
All right. Okay, friends. Thank you all for listening to our podcast, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to, if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe, you can like. If you're on any podcast listening platforms, you can leave a 5-star rating. And if you don't like us, please just don't leave a rating at all. That'd be greatly appreciated. But if you love us, or even if you like us a little bit, just go ahead and put it at 5.
Yeah.
Just go ahead. It's okay. It's okay. We appreciate. That's really it. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at, sorry, I choked on my spit, at Always More Pod. Tim, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Timothy Lichty, and on TikTok at Timothy Lichty. That's Liechty.
Very good. Chris?
I am on Instagram as Captain_CT Ford or on TikTok as Christopher.Lionheart.
And you can find me on Instagram at WhatHarley, WUT Harley, and on the Clock app at HarleyBean.co. Thank you guys again for listening, for being a part of the conversation. And remember, there's always more than this. Bye!
Bye!
Love you.
Thank you for listening to the Always More podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, like, and rate on whatever your platform of preference is. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Always More Pod. If you'd like to submit a question, you can ask us on any of our social media platforms, or you can leave us a voicemail at 254-218-4042. If you'd like to feed into our caffeine addiction as well as support the podcast financially, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/alwaysmorepod. For further information and to contact us, you can email us at alwaysmorepodcast@gmail.com.
All right, so next up, we're going to move into...
What did I miss? You son of a... God damn it, Tim.
I was so ready for it.
Right the
Please
time
keep
in.
that in. I need you to
No.
keep it in. I
No,
need that.
no.
Oh, but that's... Put in a freaking blooper reel or something. I need
Bro,
that.
I'll put it at the end.
Do we have a blooper reel?
I always put it at the end.
No, like in
No, I
general,
mean,
we
like,
should just like
from
release
all
one
of our old
soon.
episodes?
I don't save everything. It'd be
should.
so much to try to filter through.
Nah,
That's
just
valid.
save it all into one giant
Okay.
file and put it in a Patreon.
20. All right, I'm ready now.